2011, the social media boom came to India. People were using social media sites before that too. But after 2011, it simply was on a stop. A lot of local businesses were helped by these, and ours was one of them. My name is Raghav, and I'm from Himachal Pradesh, a state in the Himalayan region of India. I am a Sherpa. What I basically do is guide tourists and people who pay me a sum of money on to climb the mountain. Our clients range from scientists, military, to local tourists who simply want to take pictures for their Instagram. And lately, these tourist numbers have been rising due to social media. Well, anything that's good for business, we're happy with it. I was 12 then, and my father was running the business. I was learning the business trick and tips from him. I used to help him a lot, and I enjoyed my job. It's like the snow-glazed mountain of Himalaya were calling to me. I felt serene. I felt like I'm always at peace when I'm in the mountains. It was an experience that I have always been striving to get again and again. But then everything changed. Everything changed when we met that thing. Should I call it a guardian or a monster? I still don't know. This is my story. Story of how I became a person who loved mountain to someone who was afraid of them from its very soul. In the month of November, we got a call. A client from the scientific private organization known as IPAC contacted us. They wanted to go up the mountain to search for a species that have seemed to be extinct in many parts of the world. They thought that it was still present in the snow-capped mountain of the Himalaya. A kind of snow ape exactly, which people mostly have misunderstood to be Yeti, or as we in India call the Himalayan. We were first of all going to reject the offer. I mean, it was November, winter was just up ahead, and the snowstorm were raging hell upon the mountain. But even if our business was doing good, we still have expenses that were rising up. My mother was suffering from cancer, and we needed that money very urgently. And the organization was paying us quite a lot. And a lot, I mean, oh boy, it was hell lot of money. So with some restriction, my father, who was the chief Sherpa of our company, of our small venture, agreed to take them personally. I also requested my father to go with him, and although with some hesitation, my father agreed to take me, as he thought it would be a good experience for me to learn. Oh, how I hope I never went. How I hope I could stop my father from going up on that mountain. Anyway, on the middle week of November, we and the company started climbing up the mountain. There were 4 people, 2 women and 2 men. One of the men's name was Rahul, and he was the leader of the expedition. His assistant, known as Sia, was also a very kind woman. She thought that I was a little kid and used to tell me a lot of scientific stories. used to she used to tell me more about education in other parts of India and how I could get a good life there. She was really kind, but I was not really interested in that. All I had ever in my mind was these mountains and how they attracted me. Our journey started at dawn, somewhere around 6 a.m. Our climbing was initially very smooth and we were on the right track. But as we reached the second day, a snow blizzard started and we had to take shelter. But the expedition team was suddenly getting agitated. I don't know why. They started setting up a camp there and said, let's do a little bit of research here. My father did not complain as the snow blizzard would not have allowed us to climb up anymore anyway. The expedition party started setting up their equipment and I watched with curiosity. They had a device which was giving special frequency and trying to capture anything that was receiving it or a certain kind of sound that was coming in its response. It had some kind of humming voice. It kind of felt weird and sinister. But since we are simply Sherpa, we didn't really care. As long as they don't do anything stupid that would jeopardize our life, we don't really care what they do. We're simply to guide them there. We waited till the snow blizzard subside. But the expedition party, after just 24 hours of setting up the camp, started receiving a signal, a kind of sound that I had never before heard. It was coming from a nearby steep valley that had a cave. The expedition party was suddenly excited and they requested my father to immediately take us there. My father strictly said no. How could he? The mountains are unforgiving. One slight mistake and downhill you go, rumbling down in the Himalaya. And these mountains are so unforgiving that your corpse wouldn't be recovered by any means. You'd be buried in the deep snow for tens of hundreds of years and may never be found. There were many such cases where people's dead bodies were found after 40 years. It was simply horrifying how so serene mountain could be so unforgiving, could be so brutal. But anyway, my father didn't agree to the expedition request. We waited for another 12 hours, and when the blizzard slowed down a bit, the expedition team requested us again to take us there. And this time, they offered us twice the money they had initially offered if we agreed. Although my father hesitated, seeing that the blizzard had slowed down a lot and would soon end, he reluctantly agreed. But he told Sia and me to stay here in the camp. The expedition party agreed, as they needed someone in the camp to record the frequencies of this strange device. I was hesitant, but by any means I agreed. We waited and waited and waited. 24 hours had passed. They should have returned by now, but they didn't. I had a very bad feeling wailing upon me. It's like something terrible was looking at me something that wanted to devour me. I talked with Sia a bit. I was a little curious guy, and she was more than eager to satisfy my curiosity. But then came a man who was all bloodied and limping. It was my father. I ran up to him and held him. As soon as he saw me, he simply fell down. I took him into the camp, gave him some hot water, started treating his wounds. He wasn't seriously wounded, but it seemed like he was struggling, running and climbing like mad. I didn't know what happened, but the rest of the expedition team was not to be found. Sia was getting very restless. She was worried about her team member. And my father was unconscious for 6 hours. I, out of my sheer stupidity or curiosity, wanted to see what happened. And being the stupid kid I was, I went there. I started going to that cave. Sia didn't allow me initially, but when I told them about what might have happened to her teammates, she couldn't stop me. I went there. Being a Sherpa for more than 6 years of my life, the 6 years that I have guided my father, I didn't really had much problem going to that cave in that snow-covered valley. I went up to the cave front. As soon as I reached the front, it felt sinister. Like something inside was looking at me, like it would rip out my heart apart. Just before I could step in, I heard it. I heard a roar from inside that sent chills down my spine. It was not animalistic. I know how wolf, jackals or small bear howl. We are living in the Himalaya. There are plenty of predator and animals in this place, and I have heard most of them. Oh no, this was something more demonic. I went there. I went inside, and the first sight I saw was a dead body. A dead body mangled and pressed like someone had stepped on him. It was the captain of the expedition. I puked and vomited right there. It was too nerving for my 12-year-old mind to take it in. I decided to go back, but just as I turned, someone screamed from inside. It might have been an expedition member. I didn't know what to do. But lacking better judgment, I decided to go in. I might be able to help someone. I had a gun. I sneaked it out while coming from the camp because I was a little bit afraid. Mastering my courage, I went inside the cave. But I found no one until I saw it. A being was sitting right then and there. It was holding something in its arm. The being was white and hairy. It was almost 10 feet tall even while sitting down. It was monstrous. It was the Himalayan. It was Yeti, I think. I froze. Then it turned its head, and I saw what it was holding. It was a small baby. It was its baby, I think. It looked at me with those red bloodshot eyes, but it didn't do anything to me. It looked at me for a minute or two and then turned back and sat down as before. It didn't do anything to me. I took steps back. I was horrified. As soon as I moved out of the cave, I climbed back up the mountain and went to the camp. The blizzard had subsided very, very much. We can go back now, and the daylight was coming. The day was just too horrific for me now. It was no different than the dark night. I didn't explain anything to Sia and simply started packing back. I put my father on a stretcher and urged Sia to help me take him down. When she asked me about her member, I just showed her a photograph that I clicked of the dead captain. She cried and was horrified, but when I told her what I saw, she simply agreed to help me. We took my father on a stretcher and started going down. Although very hard for us and we took a lot of break, we still managed to descend a lot within the span of time. But then I heard it. I heard the roar again. I turned back to look at the valley deep down, and there it was standing. That monster, or that mother. I don't know what the expedition team wanted to do, but that thing was something inhuman. My father refused to talk about it. I didn't know if the monster attacked randomly or it was simply trying to protect its baby. But I now know one thing. There are something in this world that simply needed to be left alone, never to be disturbed. I'm sending this file to the task force in hope that you can prevent people from going to that creature or capture it or protect it if it's good. I hope you get my file. Thank you. Now, I am a middle-aged man and my son is going to take up the job of Sherpa. I don't want him to suffer. That's why I'm recording this file and sending it to you. I hope you can help.